Hi, I'm Fran and this is frannook in the pages. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have another book tag for you. Since tomorrow is Thanksgiving, we don't celebrate it here, but I love the idea of Thanksgiving and celebrating Thanksgiving. So I wanted to have some Thanksgiving celebration here on my channel, and today I have for you the, of course, Thanksgiving book tag. I will leave the creators and the original tag in the description down below. And before we jump in, a quick reminder to subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Click the bell thingy to get notified whenever I upload a new video, and if you insist, you can like this video and share it. Now that that's out of the way, let's begin. Bread. What book is purely fluff and has no real plotline? Little Moments of Love by Catana Chetwynd. Catana Chetwynd is an artist who makes these graphic novels. Are they really graphic novels? They're basically a collection of these comic style drawings, and it's her life with her boyfriend and these tiny little moments of love that any couple, I think, can relate to. Whenever I read her comics, I just see me and my girlfriend right there doing the same things, thinking the same stuff, and it's just so heartwarming and fluff and so sweet, and I just love it. It's such a nice treat, a nice book to treat yourself to. Turkey. What book made you want to fall asleep? I'm gonna go with a recent read, and that unfortunately would be Bridge of Souls by V.E. Schwab. I don't particularly like V.E. Schwab, but a couple of years ago, I think, I listened to the first book in this middle grade series. I can't remember the name of the first one, but I surprisingly really enjoyed it. And so I read the second one and I listened to the second one and I enjoyed it as well. And so I kind of had good high-ish hopes for the third one, but it was a bit of a disappointment. I didn't particularly like the setting. The story was kind of boring, and while I was listening to it, I kept thinking, when does it end? When is it over? Why do that to myself? I did finish it, but it was just, it didn't give me anything. It was a boring book, and it was such a disappointment. I don't think me and V.E. Schwab are made for each other. Gravy. What book made the whole series worth reading? A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I listened to the first book in the series and it just blew me away. One of the best books I've ever read, one of the best mysteries I've ever read, one of the best YA books I've ever read. It is about this teenager girl, Pippa Fitzmoby, who decides to investigate a cold case, a murder that happened in her small town, for a school project. And she ends up discovering things that weren't known before, and stuff happens, and I just loved it so much. It was so fast-paced and full of twists and things that I hadn't seen coming. It's not afraid of going there. It tackles some pretty heavy issues. I would say trigger warnings for sexual assault, drugs, death of a pet, terrible media coverage of tragic events. There's a lot going on in this book, but it was done with tact and beautifully, and I loved it. And I listened to the second one and I loved it, and I cannot wait to listen to the third one. I'm on hold because I want to listen to the American audiobook because it has a full cast and special effects in the background which are not there in the British one, and the only way I could have access to the audiobook was through the Libby app, because my brother who lives in New York made the thing for me at the library, because due to like geographic territory laws or something, I cannot listen to it through Audible at the moment or any other place. So I'm on hold, I'm waiting for it, but when it comes, I shall listen to it. Stuffing. What book is stuffed full of action scenes? For this one, I cheated a little bit because I haven't really been reading fantasy books this year. So if I had to pick a fantasy book with actual action scenes for this question, I would have to really go back in time. So I changed things up a little bit, and I'm gonna go with One to Watch by Kate Stayman London, because this book basically has a reality show thing going on where basically a plus size main character is chosen to be a competitor, like the new Bachelorette in like a Bachelor kind of TV show, reality TV show thing. We don't have a similar one here, I don't think. But this book, it was incredible. It had so many twists, and that's why I'm saying that it was like action-packed. It was full of twists. And since there's a reality TV show being filmed, there are many scenes where the cameraman or whomever just goes, action, you know? That's me cheating. It's terrible, I know, but I'm gonna go with it. I recommend this book. It was fantastic. The audiobook is narrated by Kristen Sie, whom I adore as a narrator, so 100% recommend. Whether you like reality shows or not, it is addictive as hell and you'll love it. Mashed potatoes. What book looked good and then wasn't? Without no doubt whatsoever, I'm gonna go with A Woman Is No Man by Etaf Rum. This was just terrible. It was so hard to get through this. I have a review on Goodreads where I go into the specifics of why this was a terrible book, at least to me. But long story short, the author was trying to depict how women don't have a voice, don't have any power whatsoever, any control on their lives in the Middle Eastern culture. All the men in this book were terrible, filthy animals with no control that just treated women like absolute shit, and they deserved a terrible bloody death for what they were doing to the women. And there were no shades of gray, there was no redemption whatsoever, not for those men because they didn't deserve any kind of redemption for what they were doing. There were no male figures that were different from those animals. And I strongly believe that in our society where racism is a truly big deal, it's a huge problem, especially towards Black people, people of color, and people coming from the Middle East specifically. You can't have a book where all of them are just terrible, shitty human beings, because I know that there are people who come from that environment, from that culture, who are different, who are not set in the old ways. So you can't have that in your book with no redemption whatsoever. That's not okay for the society we live in, I don't think. So this was just a huge no for me. Cranberries. What book has the sweetest romance? When You Least Expect It by Haley Cass. This book, like the whole time I was reading it, I had this face right here. It was just the sweetest, cutest thing. And my girlfriend told me to read this book. She recommended it to me, and we weren't in the same space, like geographically speaking, when I was reading this book. And the whole time I was reading this book, I was just texting her, telling her where I was and commenting scenes, and it was just like the sweetest thing. I just love this book so much. It is an FF romance, and it's just the sweetest thing ever. It might not be written in the most, you know, elegant, beautiful, elaborate way. It's pretty basic, but I don't care. It was so sweet, and I just treat yourself to this book. It's just the sweetest thing ever. Corn. What's the corniest book you've ever read? I couldn't really think of one. I kind of thought about the Heartstopper graphic novel series by Alice Oseman, because I think that Nick and Charlie can be pretty corny at times. But actually, also Magnus and Alec from the Cassandra Clare world, from the Red Scrolls of Magic specifically by Cassandra Clare. I think those two can be pretty corny when they want with each other, particularly Alec, but also Magnus. They both have their moments. Theirs is a tough relationship without no doubt, but as I've said, they have these moments where they're just corny and sweet, and they just made me giggle. But if you immediately thought of a book when you heard this prompt, please let me know in the comments, because I want to read some corny books. I enjoy them. I can be corny myself. So, green beans. What book is too long and needs to be shortened? King of Crows by Liba Bray. Okay, it's been a year. It's been a year and I'm still very bitter about this book, okay? It was such a long, terrible ending to the Diviner series after 3 books of amazing stories, so well built and so interesting to listen to. The 4th one was just a terrible mess. There's no other way to say it. It was terrible. It was badly constructed, badly paced. Where the story went, it made no sense to me. It was confusing as hell. I really didn't like it, and it was way too long. It should have been like a 1/4 of what it was, and it still would have been bad. So, terrible disappointment. I'm still very bitter about it. I don't know if you can tell. And for dessert, we have pumpkin pie. What book do you read to get out of a reading slump? I don't have a specific book that I go to whenever I'm in a reading slump. I would say that when I'm in a reading slump, I usually pick up a graphic novel because they're very fast to read. They have pictures, drawings, maybe because they're like halfway between a book and a TV show, but they kind of make me feel closer to the story, more in the story, and they just make me feel like I want to keep reading. So that's a good way to get out of a reading slump. Someone is cutting something outside and they're really pissing me off. Otherwise, what I do is I pick an audiobook that I'm really interested in reading, perhaps an audiobook that has multiple narrators or that has special effects in the background, like a full cast with special effects. Again, maybe it's because it's halfway between a TV show and a book, but it really makes me want to keep listening and get in the story, and that kind of gets me out of the reading slump if I am in one. So that's my way of dealing with reading slumps. So this was it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. Please let me know in the comments if you have read or would like to read any of the books that I've mentioned in this video. Also, you can answer to the prompts of this tag in the comments down below. I would love to hear your answers, specifically when it comes to the corny books. Just give me some corny book recommendations because I need some corniness in my life, okay? Again, I hope you enjoyed watching, and I will see you soon in another video. Happy Thanksgiving to those of you who celebrate it, and I will see you soon in another video. Until then, have a good one and warm hugs. Bye!